Transfer season is beginning and Arsenal are trying to make moves. They are linked, seriously linked with Victor Gyokeres and Benjamin Sesko. It's a strikers market this year. Arsenal have to get this right. Everybody knows that Arsenal have needed a striker for the longest amount of time. Everybody knows that Arsenal need to look at this position properly. Even Mikel Arteta, in one of his last press conferences, I saw him sort of state the intent to have to go strong, and the people upstairs will do what they have to do, is basically what he said. And now we're seeing the strongest links possible, that the choice is between Victor Gyokeres and Benjamin Sesko. Now, look, the situation with Alexander Isak, I think Arsenal were waiting to see what happened with Newcastle United, if they did or didn't get Champions League. They did get Champions League, even though they lost to Everton. So I think Isak's off the table. Isak's off the cards. But who should Arsenal sign? Out of who's the better suitor? Sesko? Sesko or Gyökeres? Now, Gyökeres, 26 years of age, goal machine. Goal machine. Over 50 goals this year in the league. In the league. Portuguese league. He's in his prime. He's ready for his big move. But Benjamin Sesko, there's already been interest there from Arsenal. They approached Leipzig even last season. He signed the contract extension. He wanted to stay another year. I think they inquired in January as well. That's been a more longer standing target for Arsenal. And he's a player who's obviously a lot younger and in a different period of his career. He hasn't hit his peak yet. He's one for the future, even though he's exceptional now. In terms of playing styles, I think there's a lot of similarities, man. There's a lot of similarities in terms of the strength, the speed of the players, the way they can take the ball, the hold-up play, but of course, hitting the back of the net. Both of them are specialists at hitting the back of the net. Now, Victor Gyokeres, his numbers in the last, I don't know, his numbers in the last couple of years have just been ridiculous. Let's make no mistake about that. His numbers have been crazy, you know. And with both of these players, of course, there's always a risk for players that haven't played in the league. But if I'm honest, I don't think Arsenal could go wrong with either. I'll be real. I'll be real. My genuine feeling, there's no trolling. Like I said, that's not what I do here. Sometimes I might. But my honest feeling is that I think they'll be all right with either. I probably lean just towards Gyökeres. Just. And that's just because of the age, the experience, also the fit as well. Like I said, the fit for both of them, I think, would be perfect. But Gyökeres, in terms of being a goal machine, you know what I mean? You're talking over 70 GA for club and country this season. Ridiculous numbers. And I just feel that in this Arsenal team that's so polished, you've got creation from Saka, you got creation from midfield. They need more of it. They need Odegaard to step up and do more of that. Rice to step up and do more of that. I think Martin Zubimendi, we haven't seen much more on that, but I think that's pretty much a done deal. Correct me if I'm wrong, Arsenal fans. I think that's a done deal. You know, there's creation from midfield. Arsenal create a lot of chances. You know, with the likes of Martinelli and Trossard on the left, they create chances. Arsenal create chances, man. Kai Havertz still scores quite a lot of goals, considering he's not the number 9 they actually need. They create chances, Arsenal. So Gyökeres is that one you just drop in there and say, go score goals, bro. Go and do what you do best and go score goals. And he works hard and he's powerful and he's strong and he's ready-made now. The situation with Sesko is, listen, he's a top striker as well. Big boy. He's tall, he's strong, he's quick. He knows where the back of the net is. And look, there's more longevity in that, you would say, right? At 21 years of age, there's bigger scope for him to grow. How much better is Victor Gyokeres going to be if this is his peak? You know what I mean? Can his peak go up a level because he's in the Premier League? Potentially. But what we're seeing from Victor Gyokeres is pretty much what you're going to get. There's more room for growth, which could appeal more to Mikel Arteta, if you're honest. Could appeal more to him, having that younger player that he can continue to mold. I'm not saying that Victor Gyokeres is going to be a problem with attitude or anything like that. Listen, he was very successful under Ruben Amorim at Sporting, very successful at Coventry when he started to make his name before he went to Sporting, and he had spells, obviously, before that at Swansea. I think it was Brighton as well before that, where he couldn't really establish himself. So it took him a while. He had a bad stint at Swansea. It just shows how long it takes for players to develop at times. But Sesko is definitely playing. His ceiling seems higher. Sesko is playing at a higher level at this age than Gyökeres was at the same age, at 21 years of age. At 21 years of age, he was not doing this, Gyökeres. He was not doing what Sesko's doing. But I just think overall, I'd lean more towards Gyökeres because Arsenal need it now. But neither of them is a bad move. Neither of them is a bad move. And this is Arsenal entering the chat properly. You got Liverpool about to wrap up Florian Wirtz for over 100 million euros package, right? With the add-ons. He may play in the false nine, Liverpool fans tell me. He may play in the 10, etc. But either or, he could be their new Bobby Firmino. I don't know, right? But he's there. He's going there. Yeah. Chelsea have entered the chat. What competition is there for Victor Gyokeres as well, actually, and the likes of Sesko? Because Chelsea, with the Champions League football, I know they're looking at the lap, but they've got Champions League money now. And they got Chelsea money in general. They're Chelsea. So they can enter the chat for Victor Gyokeres. They can enter the chat for big boy strikers. What's the competition going to be like? What's the pulling power of Arsenal? The pulling power of Arsenal, all jokes aside, all banter aside, is that they're knocking on the door. They are seriously knocking on the door. They keep falling short, but they're a few pieces of the puzzle away, right? Now, listen, from the banter side of it, you can keep saying they're nearly men, they're bridesmaids, etc. They keep not getting over the line. From a pure football perspective, Arsenal are very attractive to strikers, very attractive to players, top players in the world right now. And, you know, that's why they've been linked with Rodrigo. You know, that's why they're linked with some of the hottest strikers going in the world, because they're in Arsenal can shop in them aisles now without having won anything in 5 years. Do you know what I'm saying? And the reason why they can attract these players and they're in for Victor Gyokeres and this, that, and the other, rivals can laugh. But the reason why Arsenal are in for these players is because of the team that they've become on paper with the eye test that you can see. Listen, in all honesty, there's no shame going out to PSG in the semi-finals of the Champions League, especially in the manner that they did. It was a close tie. It was a close tie. PSG were just a better team than them this year. That's just how it went. But they were close, slapped up Real Madrid in the way that they did. They went one step further from the quarterfinals last year, where they went out to Bayern and went to the semi-finals. So there's a bit of progression there. The league, listen, they let themselves down because of the recruitment. It didn't necessarily look like Arsenal had gone backwards. There were times during the season where you looked at Arsenal and yes, with the big injuries, they didn't cope very well. To me, it was a bigger highlight of Arsenal's lack of recruitment than it was of a highlight of their regression. You know, I could jump on that as a United fan or as a neutral to try and stick the boot in an Arsenal. But if I look at it objectively, for me, Arsenal haven't gone backwards. Yes, Arne Slot coming in to win the league at first time of asking, and looking in at Mikel Arteta's men and Arsenal Football Club as a whole to have the inquest as to how did that happen. There's a lot of factors, but I think that the factor at the top of the list for me, you know, and listen, as a neutral, for me, the top of the list of the factors of how they didn't get this league done was recruitment in the summer and missed opportunities to recruit in January. That's it. You know, I don't really. Mikel Arteta has things to sort out. He has these things to learn. You know, his management of when Saka was out, he didn't go to Wanyeri as early as he could have done. And, you know, when Odegaard was out, sorry, he didn't give him enough opportunities. He tried to find internal solutions, as he says. Mikel Marino, you know, he helped fix a patch when Havertz wasn't there. But if we're honest, I think it's less about Arteta's definitely not good enough to get them over the line. That's a separate conversation, separate video, separate topic, and more about how on earth did Arsenal not get the players that they knew they needed when they've just lost another title to Man City last season. You know, twice on the bounce they lost out to Man City, and they knew the things they needed, especially last summer, and they didn't do it. That's the biggest failing at Arsenal Football Club, and that's why now you have to put respect on them in terms of they know what they need, and they're very attractive for that. That's why That's why the top strikers in Europe are potentially on one of the top strikers in Europe is potentially on their way to Arsenal. They have to get this over the line. Sesko or Gyökeres, they have to get him over the line. The Isak thing, I think, has sailed now. That ship has sailed. I think he's going to stay. You never know. Could you tempt him? But Arsenal Football Club, you must get one of either Sesko or Gyökeres, or maybe even Victor Osimhen. You know what I mean? I know the wage demands are very, very high. It might not be in line with what Arsenal are looking at. The wage demands of Sesko compared to Gyökeres are very different as well. He's got a lot less wage demands. the agent fees as well, and the release clause as well. It's a bigger deal to do. It costs more to get Gyökeres as well. So that's another factor into it, finances. But either or, Arsenal get it done. You need a top level striker. Don't drop the bag. Don't fumble the bag like they've done time and time again. I share it, but as a neutral, I share Arsenal fans' frustration when you look at the lack of activity they did in January. Sorry, in the summer, in a season where they had to topple City and bridge that gap. No one was even thinking about Liverpool. They came back with Mikel Merino, they came back with Calafiori, and they came back with Raheem Sterling. Nah. And then in the end, it was Miles Lewis-Skelly who was the emergence as the top left back. So that Calafiori is a good squad player, could play centre back, could play left back. Didn't need it. Didn't need it. Look at Lewis-Skelly now. He's the #1 starting left back at Arsenal. So that's 40 odd million quid or whatever they paid for Calafiori that could have gone to the top striker. But Camerino had a decent season. He's a decent player, but it wasn't enough to bridge the gap. And we all know what happened with Sterling. So that's a monumental failing. Then they got to January with the injuries that they had. They were still in with a chance of winning this league. It wasn't over. Didn't invest. Now prove to the Arsenal fans that the reason you didn't invest then was because you couldn't get the one. And now you're going to splash the cash and show intent and get that deal done early so Arsenal fans can get behind the squad again and go again and try and win that league next year. Smash a like on the video, peeps. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. I'm out of here.